So for everyone that's here, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll be speaking about the importance of allied health teamwork. For those of you who are tuning into one of these webinars for the first time and aren't familiar with Evika, we provide free online education for people with complex needs and those who care for them. So this is one in a series of webinars that we do. And we are so thrilled today to have Margot and Marky joining us to discuss their experiences. So this is what you can expect over the next hour. Welcome and thanks. 2 minutes. I'm already trailing towards the end of that, so I'll hurry up. We're gonna hear about Margot's experience traveling through the healthcare system as someone living with ALS. We're going to provision about 25 minutes for that. We did record her stories just to make things a little bit easier. So we'll listen to some recordings, but Margot is also here live with us, and she'll be filling in some context and can also answer any questions and interact with you live as you'd like. After Margot shares her experiences, we're going to be hearing from Marky, who is an OT and educator in Southern Ontario. And she has the benefit of having worked in several different settings and will be speaking to her experience of how to build teamwork throughout each of those settings in Ontario. We're going to have a little break. It's 2 minutes, a quick word from our sponsors who allow us to put these types of events on. So we'll play a little video from them, and then we'll get into a 15-minute question and answer period right after that. There's no need. So, you're welcome to fill the chat or fill the Q&A with your questions as we go through the presentations here. You don't need to wait until the end, but we will start addressing them at that point. And then a quick wrap up, contact information in case you want to get in touch with us, and we can redirect you to Margot and Marky for more context if you'd like, and a thanks again. So just before we jump into Margot's story, our sponsor today is Control Bionics. For those of you who aren't familiar with them, they are the manufacturers of the NeuroNode, which is a phenomenal piece of technology allowing people with complex speaking disabilities to retain their voice. We'll play that video a little bit later after the presentations, as I discussed. And so I'm not going to dive into the background here. We already talked about it a little bit. But I'll turn it over to Margot so that she can speak to her own experiences best and get us set for watching the recordings of her videos.
Thanks, Adam. Hi, everyone. I'm thrilled to be part of this webinar series. Teamwork is really important and has a great background in my life before ALS as a corporate communications specialist. I won many awards for teamwork. I can't say enough about it, and here are a few instances where it worked and may have needed some improvement. Thanks. About 6 months ago, I was admitted into the hospital. It was supposed to be an overnight operation to have a medical pump inserted to my spine. As it turned out, it wasn't an overnight. I was in for 3.5 months. It first turned out that after the operation, they kept me in intensive care where I was in bed using diapers for about 3 days. Then they transferred me to the normal ward. And again, I was left in bed. And I asked them if I could get some physio because my legs were so stiff I couldn't stand up anymore. And so 2 days later, two PTs showed up and wanted to help me out of bed. And I said, well, I'm lying here with a wet diaper. I haven't had any nurses come around, and I'd rather not do exercises all wet and dirty. And they said, okay, well, we'll try again next week. And I was so incensed because I know the longer I'm in bed and not using my legs, the less chance I'll have of walking again. So I said to them, can you not come back later today? And they said, no, we're busy. We'll try for tomorrow. And I said, well, can you coordinate it with the nurse or the other workers? And they said, well, we'll try. And what I took from that experience is how little the clinicians and the nurses and PSWs actually talk to each other and understand that is the patient that loses out if things aren't coordinated properly. So there I was lying in bed. The nurse came along and I said to her, can I get changed? And tomorrow, can I get changed and ready to get up before the PTs come? And they said, well, we'll see. I'm not on tomorrow. So, que sera, sera. I was really upset, and it turned out PTs didn't even come the next day. So when they finally did come back, on that day, I had asked the nurses, are the PTs coming today? They said, we don't know. And they did turn up, and thank goodness I was dressed and ready to get out of bed. Turned out they tried to get me up standing to walk to a wheelchair. Well, my legs were dead by then. So they used a lift, got me up, plumped me in a chair, and off they went. Again, I was so upset because I thought PTs are supposed to move you and exercise with you. Before they left, I said, can I have some exercises to do? And they said, sorry, we're out of time. We'll try again next time. And it was Friday, so I knew once again I wouldn't see them till the following week. So I learned to have my to-do list ready so I could strongly ask the nurses to get me ready before they showed up. And when they did, I remembered to ask them to give me some exercises to do to strengthen my legs, and then put me in the chair. So they did all that, but when they were stretching my legs, they were being really, excuse the expression, wimpy with my legs. And I kept saying, it doesn't hurt, just bend them. Keep bending, keep lifting, it doesn't hurt. And it turns out they knew absolutely nothing about ALS. So again, that kind of bothered me quite a bit that they hadn't taken the time to at least Google and learn about ALS and spasticity. I can be really rigid, but it's not gonna hurt me to bend me. So overall, I was really upset about treatment in the hospital just being a number on the wall that the OTs and PTs had to come and visit. Once they did, they checked their list and went on to the next.
So just so you know, Margot's been so generous in sharing both negative and positive experiences about teamwork that she experienced in the healthcare system. As Margot, you've progressed through your journey here. You know what really strikes me about that. I mean, there's a couple of things, and you know it really, and I know that there's different settings, and you know the people that are attending today, they might be from hospitals, they might be from rehab centers, they might be from the community. I'm not really sure, you know, what everybody's setting is, but I think it's important for everyone to understand what to expect when you're receiving people from different settings, or when you're sending them to different settings, and the experiences that that the clients will experience in each one. You know, this one's about a hospital, and it just seems like a little bit of information would have gone a long way internally, as well as externally. And you know, I think one nice thing about the Ontario healthcare system is I think we all strive for the whole system to be a team. And there are people out there who do understand ALS and who are readily available, and happy to help, for those of you who may not encounter it that frequently, or other diagnoses. I think that the whole system. So you know, I'm curious, Margot, um, based on your experience, and I know we're going to hear about your experience at the rehab center next, and the really positive experience, but you know, what did you feel when you left, you know, that setting? If you're willing to share with us, you know, and if you can recall, what were your feelings, you know, as you were leaving that hospital setting?
Well, other than being thrilled to get the hell out, I was really quite incensed, I guess, feeling deflated, feeling I didn't have anybody to support me or help me or hear me. I really felt like, what's the point in going on? Because the medical system sure let me down, taking my ability to walk away and not seeming to, use the expression, give a shit. So, yeah, I felt quite useless, and didn't really see any point in going to rehab or anywhere.
And you know, you know, I certainly don't want to put any words in your mouth, but just the way that you describe the experience, had there been some communication and just a little bit of teamwork, a little bit of going that extra step to share information and make it seem like the team was more congruent in helping you through this process, is that what, like, in your mind, is that what left that impression on you? Was it really the teamwork that and or the lack thereof, that left you feeling that way?
I think so. In my mind, it would have been so easy for a PT, and a nurse to coordinate activities so that I was ready for PT. Like, what the hell happened to communication? Everybody just was so inner focused and narrow focused that they just did their own thing and nobody thought about the patient at the end of the road.
Yeah, I personally, I think everyone in the healthcare space who's a stakeholder here needs to recognize, how our actions are perceived from the people that we're trying to help. And it seems so clear here that a little bit of additional communication, a little bit of better teamwork would have made you feel that much more supported. And to use your words, that people gave a shit about you, and that you left, and that would have had you leaving the hospital feeling a completely different way. And so thank you for that insight. And it's not all bad. So Paul, why don't we get started on the positive experience that Margot had, and the effect that left on her as well, which is so important.
So after almost a month in hospital, without really any coordinated effort on the care team, I finally got sent to rehab. It was the Bickle Center in Western Toronto. And once I got there, I was absolutely thrilled. Not only did they have kind of a modern look, that it wasn't all run down, but the day I got settled into my quad room, I had a visit together with the OT and the PT that I had never heard of, but they were very positive. Explained to me how the physio and OT worked throughout the week, gave me a scheduled time for Monday to Friday efforts, and asked if I had any questions, asked how I was doing, and we talked about goals. And I was so blown away that I actually had these people show up to my bed so proactively, as if also they were joined at the hip. So off they went. The next day came, and sure enough, my nurse in the morning said that you'll have physio at a certain time, so I'll get you up and washed and dressed before then. And I was blown away by the nurse not only acknowledging the fact that I had this exercise planned, but working around it to make sure I'd be ready for it. So there I was, up in my motorized wheelchair, ready to go for them. And they escorted me to the gym where we did 45 minutes of exploratory exercise. And although I was disappointed at first that in a whole day I'd only get 45 minutes of treatment, turns out I was exhausted afterwards. So it worked out well. And the days went on. I was seen by a doctor, a normal doctor, a physiatrist, um, a nurse practitioner, the OTs, the PTs, and of course the PSWs. And all of them seem to be in the know. I remember a day when at physio I had hurt my shoulder, an old rotator cuff problem. And that later that day, the doctor visited me and said, "How's your shoulder?" And I said, "Whoa, how did you hear about that?" And he explained that daily as a team, all of those professionals get together and discuss my case, what's working, what's not, how things are going. So each of them on my healthcare team is actually aware of everything that's going on. I was blown away and it seemed to work really well. I was happy. All the workers seemed happy because they were communicating and it was um, kind of designed that everyone had their own role to play, but it was done in unison like an orchestra. It was a really great experience. And even though I was there for 3 months and I never did end up walking again, at least we tried out different days and found that I could stand using a pivot disc, so I was good to go home with this pivot disc, knowing I could stand up and transfer. So at least, um, even though I couldn't walk, I could at least go to different destinations. So I thank the Bickle Center and their wonderful um, way of working together. It was great.
Well, and I know that we have a few folks from the Bickle Center here, so quickly, thank you for all of the great work that you do. It sounds amazing. And thanks for being an example to a lot of other people in the community. It's so striking. I can't be the only one who listens to both stories, and I hear one side of things and then the other. Coming from the hospital, you felt defeated, unsupported. Margot, what did you feel like in compared to that, coming out of the Bickle Center, after 3 months of being there?
Oh man, it was definitely night and day. I felt heard. I felt part of a team, respected. Um, it was just wonderful to know, not to toot my horn, but to know that me as the patient was the whole reason why all this activity was happening, and it all worked for the greater good. Um, I was really happy to be at the Bickle, and thank you, Bicklets, for all you do for everyone. So there you have it.
I'm a big Margot fan. For those people who don't know me or my relationship with Margot, I'm a big fan. She's such a strong advocate for people with ALS. Margot, you were on the national last night, and CBC seems to have found you and gravitated to your advocacy as well. But what I take away from all of that is how much energy you invest and how much energy it takes in order to be that kind of advocate. And I just wonder, do you feel like that experience at the Bickle Center in any way set you up for being the person that you are now, in terms of how much energy you have and your strength in continuing to advocate?
Oh, by all means. It was such a positive experience. I felt like, hey, I do deserve to go on living, to keep fighting, to keep communicating. I'm not just a bump on a log taking up space. I really did leave there knowing, okay, now that I know I can't walk, but I can stand, and I've got so much to do, so let's get going. I was definitely energized again.
I mean, that's amazing. Like, I listen to you and I hear how much a little bit of communication at the Bickle Center, how far that went in not just your rehab process, but in changing your life and in a lot of ways impacting our world. Because I don't know, where ALS advocacy in Ontario would be if you weren't such a strong speaker for it. So that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing those stories with us, Margot. I hope that everyone's taking away the power of both positive and negative teamwork and the kind of effect that can leave on the people who are receiving it. That's our goal today, is try to make sure everyone leaves here with an understanding of how important that kind of communication is. And now we have Marky Rickman here, who has experience in several settings, and because we do recognize that they're all different. And she's going to speak to us about some things that she's experienced along her journey, how important teamwork is to her, and some tips and tricks for each setting. I think I don't want to steal any of your thunder, Marky, but I'll turn it over to you now so you can set it up properly.
Great, thank you so much. I just have to figure out how to get this onto the other screen here so I can see my presentation. Here we go. Okay. Great, thank you for having me. So yes, like Adam said, my name is Marky Reichman. I'm an occupational therapist. And I was asked to join the webinar for kind of that professional experience and some anecdotal ways of thinking about interprofessional collaboration and some tips that you might find helpful, really with the goal of promoting interprofessional collaboration in allied health. I don't go into any of the literature behind this. It's really just kind of my experience and some anecdotal things. But I would consider that to be kind of the next step in exploring barriers to collaboration in order to make change on a larger level. So I'm going to be going through a little bit about me, some basics of teamwork, a little bit of a diagram that we've come up with to explain the different levels of collaboration, and then go through the different areas that I have been, that I've worked in. Perfect. So my name is Marky. I have experience in various different care facilities. I've worked in a hospital, a rehabilitation center, long-term care, congregate setting, and I'm now working in the community. So mostly working within people's homes or at different wheelchair vendors, because my niche is wheelchair and seating, specifically specialized wheelchair and seating and mobility aids, as well as assessing for people who have been injured at work. I'm also an educator. So if you want to check out my website, enablements.ca, that's with 2 T's because it's Enablement Therapy Services. We have some videos up there and that's connected to Avika. We do some I'd say monthly-ish videos for education. And I also have some webinars up there that might be of interest to you. So basically, first things first is working interdisciplinary is really the gold standard that we should all be striving for, because just like Margot said, the client is the center and the focus, right? And so that's what we really want to be striving for. So we've come up with kind of a continuum of identifying the different levels of collaboration. So if you want to go ahead and put all that up, Paul, all the different info. Yeah, I just want them to see it all together. So basically left to right is the kind of the least collaborative to the most collaborative. And so we've got the information level. So you're collaborating based on any reports that you might have, progress notes, from previous sessions, things like that, that can be shared amongst the team. So sometimes when I get a referral, I'll get all the referral documents with it that bring some information about the client. I'd say the next level up is the connection level, where you're actually connecting with another person on the allied health team, speaking with them, discussing the client in order to gain knowledge and gain any kind of insight that person has based on their profession or just their kind of personal way of viewing things. So that's phone, email, Zoom, in person, sharing any kind of firsthand knowledge, talking on the phone, rounds and care meetings, things like that. Next up, I guess, would be the practice level, is what we identified it as, where people are working together in person to complete assessments and interventions. Like Margot said, at the rehab center, people are coming together and viewing exactly the same thing at the same time with their different scopes and their different perspectives. So it's nice to have that extra set of hands when you're doing the assessment, and also talk about what that other person is seeing, and to better inform your assessment and intervention as well. So we'll go on to the next one. Yep. So the gold standard we should all be striving for is interdisciplinary. So we'll go on to the next one here. So I just started with community care, even though this is where I am currently. This is the area that I have found the hardest to collaborate interprofessionally. Coming from somewhere, coming from a rehab center, it was markedly different to have to not have my people right next to me. So I'm now, working independently. My referrals are quick kind of in and outs with a single purpose. I get referrals from certain companies that, have to stay within the scope of the referral, which is just so hard for an OT. But we have less time with the client and we need to get things completed. I don't have that immediate contact with the care team. So I have to email or call or Zoom and schedule. There could be phone tag or things like that, and schedule times to actually speak to these people, and hopefully they have some information to share with me. So communication is done through records that I've received, and if I can reach out to them, if I have their information, then I'll give them a phone call. The biggest thing I struggle with in community is not getting paid for the prep time. So not getting paid for, reviewing all the documents or calling people to connect. But as far as I'm concerned, really taking that time to connect with people is really going to increase your career opportunities. Yes, obviously the client is at the center and it's going to be best for them, but we also have to kind of be realistic in that we can't spend all of our time communicating with people if we're not getting paid for our time. So I do communicate with people. I'm not perfect at it. I by no means am trying to tell you exactly, how you should do things, because I certainly am not up to par everywhere I'd like to be. But that's how I kind of identify with sending out these calls and emails and things, knowing that I can make those connections with people. And so next time I have a common client with them, it's going to be a text or a quick call, because we already know who each other is. It's really helpful in my area. I work in a small community. as well as Hamilton. So there's kind of the same kind of people that you run into in terms of other OTs and physios and SLPs in the area. So you can make that connection quite easily. It also increases the word of mouth for your company, right? So being able to call out and say, hi, this is Marky from Enablement Therapy Services, or what is this company? Who are you? Oh my goodness, you're actually interprofessionally collaborating. I'm going to call you next time I need to put a referral in for a wheelchair or whatnot. It also decreases, going back to the client, decreases the emotional impact for the client to be able to connect with others, that they won't necessarily have to tell their story over and over and over again. I've heard that many a time where, I have to come in and complete a full report for my referral source. And the client goes, I've told this story 3 times already. So that's hard. So I try to, fill out the report with some previous reports, and then I just check in with them. Do you think this is accurate? Is this accurate? Is this accurate? So they don't necessarily have to say everything out loud again. So that's kind of why we want to push for interdisciplinary collaboration. So some tips and tricks that I've used in the community is, again, coming prepared as much as possible. So reading the documents if you can. Again, knowing we don't get paid for that prep time, but knowing it's going to make that much of a difference, and that you do have a positive outcome for your business as well. Research what you're walking into. I heard Margot say that, they didn't really know anything about ALS. I've got something as an OT, we call it the Red Bible. Sorry if that's blasphemous for anyone. But basically it's got all the different diagnoses in a book. And if I'm not familiar with that client, I can go to that page and it goes through everything, goes through a little description of the diagnosis, everything in terms of self-care, productivity, and leisure that they may struggle with, that you should identify with them and chat with them, and different resources and assessments, and all on like 2 to 3 pages within this textbook. It's called a quick reference guide. You can contact me if you want more information about that. So it can be something as quick as that, right? Just to be able to get prepared. I also prepare all the documents that I need, like preparing the template for my report pre-session. So then when I'm in the session, I can just go right into the report, so that when I'm then writing the report to send to my referral source, it's almost completely done. I just have to, put in some complete sentences or edit different things, put in photos, etc. But generally it's done. So that's some tips there. I also think bringing your patient files with you, something that I have, and I don't get paid to say this. I have a remarkable tablet, and you're able to put like PDFs on it, and write on it like with my stylus with a pen, and I can write right on PDFs. I can take photos. I can send emails on it. So all sorts of different things, and it's right at your fingertips to be able to share information with other professionals. Also taking notes within the session, fill in the reports within the session, and keep your information up to date. And I'm really pushing for you to be that agent of change. Be the person that creates the culture of information sharing, so that next time if someone knows that you are the OT or PT on the file, they'll know, yeah, she's really open to discussing. I'm going to connect with her. And then also to ask the patients and the clients to be proactive themselves and writing down sessions at their notes, writing down notes at each session with each professional. So many times I go in and I can't even get the professional's information, who they actually work with. So if they have that information, I can get it right from the client, then I can call that person and connect with them. So that's a little bit of information around community. So the next one up is the hospital setting, which we've heard from Margot is something that is a really tricky area. I would be remiss to not mention that, and not making excuses, but to mention that it's a very high-paced environment. We have a lot of clients we need to take care of at once. Basically, the system is stacked against professionals when trying to do interprofessional collaboration. And so it's broken for us too. And so it's clear that change is needed, both from the professional side and from the client side. And it's unfortunately not an isolated incident that I've heard clients tell me they've gone into hospital, haven't received therapy, and therefore can't walk anymore. That is not isolated, and that's scary. So I just love that we're putting on this webinar and that we can hear from a client, hear from Margot, and really get down into our heart and pulling on our heartstrings of how detrimental it can be not to collaborate interprofessionally, and really pushing as much as we can within the confines of a broken system. So in hospitals, it's mostly acute clients, very little time with a client, very large team with little contact, but generally documents are readily available, which is nice. So why it's useful to do interprofessional collaboration is obviously useful to have increased time with the client. So like if you already have all their history, you can focus in on their present and their current activities. You don't have to do history gathering and take up your time with that kind of stuff. Effectiveness of treatment and outcomes obviously improves when we have interprofessional collaboration, but everyone needs to be on board, right? The PT could have phoned, I'm not saying they did, but they could have phoned up and talked to the nurse and told them when they were coming up, and the nurse didn't follow through with that, or they never did call, right? But we don't know fully what happened within, and everyone needs to be on board. And that's another reason why this webinar is so helpful, to try to get everyone, all the participants, really pushing for interprofessional collaboration. So some tips in the hospital setting, again, just coming prepared as much as possible. Hopefully within the hospital, you can access information like electronic health records. That would be really helpful for you. Plan your session, know what you're walking into. Again, just looking at the Red Bible or a quick Google search if you're not familiar, but that's part of our job, is seeking that information when we don't know it and we don't have it. And then also communicating with the clients, knowing who is on tomorrow, who do I connect with? Can I leave a note somewhere? Can I put a sticky note on their computer or on their phone, or, coming up with creative solutions to try to bridge the gap. And then again, keeping your information up to date so that if someone is coming to you, you can give them that information immediately. And then next up would be the kind of specialized care, continuing care facilities like the rehabilitation facility or long-term care or a congregate setting. You definitely have more time with the client. We have less clients in our caseload, a diverse care team. I have the same experience as Margot in that I was blown away when I worked at a rehabilitation center, that it's the interprofessional collaboration is within the structure of the rehab center, which is just not found anywhere else. We got together every week and had to give a description of where we were at with the client, and so that we can collaborate with everybody at the table, allied health, as well as the physiatrists and different doctors and nurses. So I then took that information from the rehab facility, and when I worked in long-term care, started some interprofessional meetings, some weekly meetings for the Falls team, for instance, so we can put in interventions immediately. And I collaborated with the PT, or I made sure my office was right next door. So just doing things internally as much as you can to make changes at the micro level by using places like the rehab facility as an amazing example. So the reason why we want to improve interdisciplinary is, again, a lot of the same reasons why, right? Increasing time with client, decreasing the emotional impact of this experience on the client, increasing effectiveness of the treatment and the outcomes, and then your career opportunities as well. Because when you're an entrepreneur, we really do have to keep that at the front of our head so we can continue doing the work that we do. So some tips is sharing up-to-date information with the interdisciplinary team, reaching out even if if they haven't reached out to you, and making sure that information is succinct and that you do speak up in those areas. A lot of the times I find therapists are nervous to talk to doctors specifically, but grab them in the hallway, grab them at the meeting, make sure they hear you. You are an important profession. And I think we are very undervalued and underlooked at. And we need to have voices so people go, who is this person with all these great ideas? Oh, that's the OT. Yes. So we like that. And then being able to, again, mobile versions of information so that when someone does come to you, you have that information ready, and keeping that information up to date. Including trying to complete your progress notes every day. So, scheduling in time for documentation at the end of the day so that you have everything fresh in your head, but also it's there for interprofessional people to take a look. So basically, in conclusion, I think that my experience in the community and in long-term care is so different from when something is like the rehabilitation center, when it is throughout the system. It's built the way that it needs to be built. And I think we need to use that as an example because they do such great work. I definitely have to work a ton harder to connect with people when I'm on my own in the community. The informal communication and knowledge exchange that I had just by sharing an office with other PTs and OTs was staggering in comparison to what I do now. When I get together with OTs, I can't wait to go to conferences and things like that because I can't wait to connect with people and share their information that way. So it is definitely, I see a huge difference, and always think back to my time at the rehab center and how I can be more like them. I'm just looking at my notes here. I want to make sure that I get everything. Yep. So basically starting with the informational stage and working our way up to increase our collaboration as much as possible, getting access to the documents you need, come prepared, take good notes, share your findings, be heard. Collaboration also doesn't stop at the walls of your facility, right? A lot of the times I struggle with people coming out of hospital, coming out of the rehab center into the community and needing that transfer of knowledge and transfer of documents. So also be aware of that that care needs to continue. Boost your communication in whatever ways possible. The system is against us, but we are bigger than the system. So let's push, break the seal, and making that first connection is the hardest part. And then from then on, it's going to be so easy to connect with that person. Know your care team as much as possible. It's not always available. That information is not always available, but use the information that you have. Advocate for your client and for your role. I really want to push you guys to be the leader of change. I know OTs especially, we're pushed to step up right from our being educated, knowing that we are overlooked a lot, and working together. Book sessions together, work in a single framework, have an intervention plan that is common knowledge, be the expert in your area, be the expert of your client. And last but not least, just be creative in the ways that we can make some micro changes to hopefully see a macro change in the end. So if there's anything more that you're looking for from me, please email me. You can also take a look at my website and see the kind of things that I am involved in. And I'm going to throw it back to Adam.
That's great. Thank you so much, Marky. It's what I hear about that is you did such a good job of recognizing the reality of the different settings. The information collaboration, the connection, the practice, maybe someone in the community, the reality of it is may not get to that collaborative practice. I mean, you're isolated in your work and that's just a reality of it. But, what can you do to just push the boundaries of that reality that you're in? Try to make some connections. If you're in the hospital, try to build that bridge to practice. And if you're in practice already, how do you support the rest of the community in the way that you're integrated already into your team and set an example for everyone? I mean,
Exactly. And I think it's complacency that is the issue, right? Like as long as we're striving, that's all from our side. That's all we can do, right? Is strive and work and learn and see what we can do and be creative. But it's the complacency of being like, you know what, this is the way the system is. And I just have to work within that. That's not the way to think about it.
Yeah, and I know you're coming. Like, I mean, we heard the impact that made on Margot, and
Yeah.
how impactful and meaningful that both sides of the good and the bad were to Margot. That's really great way to think about it. Thank you so much, Marky, for putting that. I'm going to go ahead, and so now we're going to turn to some Q&A. If anyone has Q&A for Margot or Marky, please start populating into the Q&A section or in the chat, or raise your hand. And just while we do that, I'm going to share a word from our sponsors. So as I mentioned from the outset, our sponsors today are Control Bionics, and they make a great piece of technology that is the Trilogy system, which is powered by the NeuroNode, and you'll see a video about that. But it is a really complex piece of AAC technology that's been made very simple by them. And it's a very powerful tool. And it does require some interdisciplinary collaboration to make sure that the clients get the best outcomes out of their AAC technologies like the NeuroNode. So here, let me play this video. It's a quick couple of minutes.
Meet the NeuroNode Trilogy, the latest assistive communication device from Control Bionics. The Trilogy is a Windows-based solution for those living with paralysis and loss of speech due to conditions like cerebral palsy, SMA, TBI, spinal cord injury, or ALS-MND. This device combines 3 access methods: touch control, eye control, and NeuroNode 3.0 control. Putting these access methods together allows for the fastest, most efficient communication speed, while simultaneously reducing user fatigue. Not only does this solution provide a voice for the voiceless, but it also provides environmental control and native computer control. The 3-in-1 solution relieves the pressure of getting the right device for right now and provides a solution for the present and future. As a user's condition changes due to a progressive illness or daily fatigue, the NeuroNode Trilogy can adapt to that person's abilities using their preferred access method. The Trilogy is also backed by our industry-leading customer support. Contact us anytime, day or night, and our team will be there. There are many funding options available for the NeuroNode Trilogy, including funding support through Medicare, Medicaid, private insurance, the Veterans Administration, and various departments of education. Visit our website at www.controlbionics.com to learn more, or give us a call at 513-453-4848 to schedule an assessment with your local representative.
So I will say that funding options are also available in Canada. So it is available through the Assistive Device Program, as well as Bridges. Bridges is the representative here. So for anyone in the AAC space, you probably are familiar with them, and they are available throughout Canada to help provide this type of technology. So thank you again, Control Bionics, for sponsoring us and allowing us to put on webinars like this today. It looks like we do have a couple of questions. So the first one is for Marky and is from Carly Hunter. Do you have an example of single frameworks that help people work collaboratively together and be on the same page with work?
Sure. Actually, this is kind of nice. Paul has created an AAC, so Alternative Augmented Communication framework. So it's basically a document that fills out, this is what the OT is responsible for, and it has all these areas for us to be able to fill in. And then every professional that's involved, and it's all in the same document. So when I said single frameworks, that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about in terms of like making sure that everybody knows who is responsible for what, and being able to see each other's information and work together for that. So that would be an example. Paul, is it on the website?
Yes, it's on evica.io/AAC-checklist. I'll also send around an email to everyone who's involved in this webinar.
Perfect.
With
Yeah.
that as a follow-up.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a really great point. I mean, that was one thing that we did. But you know, as our mission is to continue to provide free tools to people to work collaboratively and across complex care. You know, if there's specific frameworks, and Marky, I mean, you're welcome to tell us, or anyone here is willing to share with us. You know, we're happy to invest time in trying to create a unified framework for different for interdisciplinary collaboration in different spaces as well. So feel free to let us know, and we'll prioritize the projects if they don't already exist. We don't want to recreate anything that everyone's already used to. So the next question is, this is a question for Margot. Now that you are back home, are you receiving any community services? If so, have you found any differences on how allied health professionals and nurses work or communicate together and with you while you're at home?
Thanks for the question, Laura Lee. The community services I have are really just PSW daily. I did have a PT come in and give me some exercises to do, and the PSW was trained on them, but I haven't had nurses and such come in. Apparently I'm well enough, I don't need that yet, but soon. And I'll work hard to make sure that they are all coordinated. Thanks.
Okay, well, we're at the top of the hour here, bottom of the hour, I don't know, whatever it is. And it looks like we don't have any other questions. Paul and I and Margot, and I don't know about Marky and your schedule, but we can hang back a little bit if anyone, you know, wants to have an open conversation. You know, we're here to support. Otherwise, you know, again, everyone, thank you so much. Paul, can you just put up the the ending slide there for everyone's information on it? Thanks everyone for your time and thoughtfulness in joining us today. If you want to see more about Avika's webinars, feel free to check out avika.io and head over to the webinar link in our menu bar. And feel free to register for more as opportunities present themselves for you. So thanks again, everyone. And thanks so much to Margot and Marky for sharing your experiences. You guys are both amazing. Thank you so much.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for coming, everyone. Miss you.
You're welcome. It looks like everyone's pretty much dropping off here. I'm sure everyone has other appointments they have to get to, so we'll just give it a minute. And
yeah, if anyone does want to chat with us, you can put your hand up or just throw something in the chat, and I can release you to talk.
couple people left. All right.
Thank
Mark,
you, Kyle.
are you pressed for time, Marky? Do you have to get to anything here?
No, I just have computer work to do after this, so I'm okay.
Carol and Siobhan, you guys, you're welcome. I'll do speak if you're still on and waiting for us.
They might also have just left their computers. Yeah.
I think we're probably good, Paul. I think we can probably wrap up there.
Yep.
just want to say thank you from the team at Bickle Center. It was very, very informative. We really enjoyed hearing Margo speak. Thank you so much.
Oh, I mean, thank you guys for and for providing them with the experience that she was so excited to share with everyone here. All right. Thanks, everybody. I guess we'll cut it off here.
Thanks all. Take care.